Welcome to The Shift, a place where real people have real discussions in search of the truths inside and outside the modern day church. You can find us at theshiftpodcast.info or connect with us on your favorite social media platform.
Guys, hello.
What's up?
Well, there's Megan and her delay because she's overseas. So when you talk to someone on the phone overseas, there's always like this, hello. Duh, duh,
Is there
duh.
a delay?
No, you just paused for a minute. But when you do,
there's not a delay on my end.
when my husband was deployed, I would know because I would say hello, and then there would be this silence, and then you'd hear this, hey, and it was so delayed, and you're like, wow, and then you're talking over each other, not realizing it. It was so weird, but anyway, So today we're going to wow you with another in the fire. There's another in the fire today. She's bringing the fire. Hello. It's the next generation of gingers in ministry. Just kidding. My daughter Mari is here. Yay.
Hello.
Mari. And Megan and I are gonna rake her across the coals on some things. Yeah, we're bringing her to the carpet. I'm just kidding. She's actually a really great kid, and we wanted her to come on and share an experience that she had. We're going to kind of talk about some things, of course, that we feel we have misstepped in the local body.
Yeah, or gotten familiar with. And so,
let me say we're still stepping in.
Yeah, let me read this real quick because I think this would be a good kickoff to your story and give like context. Not that we need context. I'm like, please, as I open my phone, don't be loud. Lord, help me.
Yep. Radio edit.
Here we go. Okay. It says golden calves get made and idols worshipped when we refuse to wait on the timing of the Lord. This is sort of goes to it, but it's like it's us pushing that is causing all these things that are sort of like God, but not quite him.
Yeah.
So
right.
Golden calves get made and idols worshipped when we refuse to wait on the timing of the Lord. Moses was long coming down the mountain, and the seeming delay caused the people to want a God they could shape and form to fit their timing and their schedule according to their needs. God cannot be mastered within our predisposed timeline. We are on his. Impatience while waiting on God tempts us into making up a God we can see that serves us instead of the other way around. So that's from Chris Burns. If y'all aren't familiar with him, you should go. He drops some really good stuff. I mean, I like his book too, The Priesthood. I probably need to go read it again.
Yeah, he's pretty legit, actually. I have one of my youth camps. Yeah, Mari was at a youth camp with him. He came to our church, the one we were at before we moved to Texas. And I just remember thinking that he looked like, what are those guys? Like a centaur? Because he had these tight, belled out little jeans on and heels on his boots. And I was like, this guy, and he looks kind of Jason Momoa-y on the top, you know? Yeah. So he's like this big guy with these tight pants on and they're belled out at the bottom. And it looked like little hooves, you know, like with his boots. But I mean, I was like, okay, maybe I can get behind this. I don't know. What a cool guy. He's got sick hair though. He does have sick hair. So anyway. So Mari is what? She'll be 18 next week. I'm crying a little, guys. By the time you hear this, she'll be 18 and I will probably be in I don't know, the bottom of an ice cream bowl somewhere. I don't know, maybe wine bottles or I don't know. It's just a little hot.
You can smoke and go to war now. Congratulations. Please don't do either one of those things.
You can't drink, but you can smoke.
Hey, if you come over here to Germany, you can drink alcohol.
Yeah, if you were with Megan in Germany, yeah.
Kidding.
I think it's younger than that. I think it's like 16 in Germany. I don't know.
Oh,
Crazy.
I think, well, yeah, they serve beer
Mhm.
all the meals. But
Yeah.
anyway, so Mari has just recently joined the ranks of the young adult group. She started college this year, a couple weeks ago. And so she's kind of in that in between where she's figuring out who and what she is. And here's the other kicker. She started off in a youth group before I had my great awakening that I didn't need to be inside this building structure anymore. And so she's had the smallest taste of what it's like to be a part of actually the youth group she was part of was a very militant type of youth group. They were very structured, they pushed really hard, and some aspects of it was really great, like they would come up to their youth group and the first 2 minutes they'd be like, all right, the first 2 minutes we're just going to pray in the spirit and we're going to really go for it before we ever say anything. I mean, it was like, they just went upstairs and bam, they started hitting it, and then you see what the Holy Spirit's going to do. But at the same time, some of the intimacy was really gone. I mean, there was like this driven intimacy, but there's no sit and wait. That was much fewer and further between, right? Compared to those things, to that kind of setting. It was just very militant. And so she really pushed and really kind of dug into that, and she was birthed a little out of that in the beginning, right? So it was a little bit of a tough transition going from that to like we're just gonna see where the Lord takes us, and we're gonna learn to sit and be still and quiet and worship and
be pneumatic people, spirit people, where we're led by the wind.
Right. We're not going to be the boots that trash the ground as we walk. We're going to be like the wind that rolls over it.
Yeah.
Right. That's a much bigger difference in those two kinds of cultures. But she started this way, but now she's been operating in this other way that's just much freer and with a lot less baggage compared to what even like Megan and I have been through in some of these settings. So she's had a small taste of both, but more of the free, like more of that freedom that we've been trying to cultivate. And so I think it's a pretty unique perspective to, at her age, 17 years old right now. I'm going to hold that in all of eternity, right? 17, having the ability to know what it's like to push hard into something, but also know the truth of the freedom.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, and most adults don't know that.
No.
Yeah, like that's what this whole thing is about. We talk about all the time is getting people free and stepping into it. So she's in this soft spot that's, it's kind of like those of us that grew up without the internet and with the internet, right? That's kind of where she's
the worst. It is such the worst.
I know, because like we remember before the right, and then we remember after the coming of the get off the phone, right? Like we remember that transition, but now we wouldn't really know life without it. Yeah. And I kind of liken that to where she's at spiritually in her life. I mean, she's constantly going to be growing, but she's been in that place where she was pushed. And so she can, like, game recognizes game here. She can recognize when it's too much and then when something is actually healthy. So I know that's a big introduction, but I just wanted to I just kind of wanted to explain a little bit that she's not coming just from no experience. She has experienced being in the system, being in the things. She has been appreciated by the system and completely ignored by the system and all the things, walking in and out of that. But here we are now in all of her 17 years of wisdom. She has this experience at her young adult group. And go.
So I am in my freshman year of college, and I had made a friend, and she happened to be Christian too. And she was like, "Hey, have you heard of this church?" And I told her, "Yeah, actually, we visited that church a few weeks ago." And she said that they had a young adults like youth group thing from ages like 13 to 30, I think it was. And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." I was super happy to have like a new friend who was also Christian. And
You still have this friend.
well, yes, I still have this friend. She's
Yeah.
still my friend.
She didn't die. She
Yeah,
didn't
she's
get rid of
still-
Mari.
yeah.
Mari's not dead to her.
Yeah.
They're still friends. Yeah.
She's still my friend.
Just a question. Have you told
yeah.
her this what you're feeling about this experience?
No, just because it's like such a new friendship, and it's like our first actual
Yeah.
church.
Oh, like no judgment. I just was wondering.
Yeah, no.
We have discussed that though, because
Yeah.
I said, "Did you tell her, or have you explained yourself?" And she said, "No, not really," because she was so into it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do like a movie night.
Yeah, it's hard to say those
Yeah.
when someone's like, "Oh my gosh," and you're like,
Yeah.
well, for
Oh,
me, I like
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
And it
So
doesn't
we're gonna do
it's not
yeah,
real for
yeah.
them.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's not real for them. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure for her it was like
Yeah.
great.
Well, that, and just because, well, I just lost my train of thought.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
That's okay.
She invited you to church.
So she picked me up, and we drove over to the church. And when we first got there, everybody was super sweet. It was super great. They were very, very interactive. They were very welcoming. And I was like, okay, I like these people. They're very, very kind. And then the equivalent to like what an assistant pastor would speak about, like when they go up and they kind of introduce who the speaker is.
Yeah.
He walks up there, and his message was good. It was great. And then they had a guest speaker from South Africa, and he was there too. And he started speaking, and the message was good. It wasn't that it was good.
It wasn't that bad.
Well, I'm trying I don't know. I'm trying to word this right.
Trying to be honoring.
I'm trying to be honoring.
Yeah.
And I think that y'all have a previous podcast episode where you talk about like water baptism, and is it necessary for
That was such a fun one. I loved that one.
well,
Kevin's still wrong. Just
He's sort of he's
sort of right, still wrong.
But this guest speaker has very strong opinions on water baptism being necessary to, he didn't really say that it was necessary to enter heaven, but he made it very, very apparent that it was extremely important, and basically said, it's how you get into heaven.
They all but say that.
Yeah.
Because I was there the week before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he continues with the message. I am appreciating all the little gold nuggets, and I'm like, okay, I can get behind this. I can agree with this. And then at the very end, he basically calls like a mandatory altar call. He starts with like, all right, prayer. Yeah, like if you want prayer, just get up in a line up here. And then he was like, actually, no, I want everybody up here. So he lines us all up, and I'm on the very right-hand side of this line, kind of over in the corner. And I was genuinely trying to receive, like I'm trying to press in, and I'm like, Lord, please make this a good experience. I want to enjoy this. I want to like these people too.
Because Mari has had, let me say this, Mari has had some encounters in some pretty crazy places, and on some pretty large, not that you guys know we don't condone the stage, but I've had her on some larger stages with me, and she would look at me when we were getting ready to receive this blessing of prayer in front of lots of people on paid for, recordings.
Yeah.
And she would look at me and she'd go, I am not going to give a courtesy fall. She's like, no courtesy falls, right? And I'm as a parent, I have to go, no, Mari, I would never tell you to fake something like that, right?
No.
Never be fake about that. So anyway, I've watched her. I know she legit did this because I have watched her with some really really well-known people, just stand there and blink at them like,
Yeah.
okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And it's not at all me trying to like defy the presence of the Lord or anything. Like
You truly want an encounter.
I truly want an encounter. I do try to press in, and sometimes nothing ever happens. Not nothing ever happens, but I just don't fall out. I haven't really ever been one to fall out like that. But he's kind of making his way down the line in like a patchy order, and he gets down to me and he starts praying for me, and I am like the only one that hasn't fallen out yet. So he stands there with me for about 2 or 3 minutes praying for me, and then he like walks away.
Is he touching your hands? Is he...
No, not well, he's kind of like hovering just a little bit, like with his body language. Well, body language as in like he's leaning in, but he's not like fully like hands on.
Where were his hands?
Well, like if I'm holding my hands out in a receiving position, they're about in the same way. Like that's what his body language is like.
Okay. So it was like hot hands. Was he like...
Yeah, kind of like a hot hands.
It was like hot hands, like...
Yeah, kind of like that. So that's how it started. For about 2 or 3 minutes, he's sitting there praying for me, and then he starts saying that the enemy has tried to steal your joy, which I mean I can agree with, but that is a very broad statement that can be given to anybody. Like the enemy tries to steal everybody's joy.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I receive it, but I don't really feel like this is something that I am very, very deeply struggling with.
Yeah, this isn't what's holding me back.
Yeah, this is not what's holding me back from falling out. So he walks away, he prays for somebody else, he looks at me again, and then he comes back to me, and then he has like his hands kind of like hovering around the sides of my head, almost grabbing my head on the side, and he starts praying for me again, and I still haven't fallen out. And then he steps back, he grabs my hand, like, not that consent is a huge thing, but usually you ask somebody, can I pray for you? Like you just ask, hey, can I lay hands on you? Well, he didn't say that. He just grabbed my hand, or he grabbed both of my hands. He says, look at me in the eyes. And I like start giggling because it's like a weird confrontation thing for me to be staring somebody in the eyes.
And he's spiritually shaking babying you right now.
Yes.
Yeah. He's like,
he's
shaking you.
I'm like, just like, for my past experiences, it makes me start to giggle. And I start giggling, and he's like, yes, more joy, like not even realizing, not laughing necessarily because of an encounter.
This is my awkward laugh because of what
this is my you're really close laugh.
I'm so uncomfortable, and you're spiritually shaking my spirit out of my body right now.
I do that.
So then he says, all right, on the count of 3, I want you to look into my eyes. On the count of 3, you're not going to see me. You're going to see Jesus in my eyes. And that
You're
really,
like, Jesus, is this true?
Is that you, Lord? But I don't like embarrassing people, so I just kind of took it, and I started giggling again. And again, he pulled the whole more joy thing. And so finally he pulls off and walks away, and just out of respect and not making it very obvious that I was kind of finished with the experience, I stood there for about 2 more minutes, and then I walked off and sat down in my seat. And there's still kind of like a line of people, a few other people had gone back and sat down, but I'm sitting in my seat, just kind of praying to myself, praying in the spirit, and I'm like, Lord, please, like, redeem this. I don't want this to leave a bad taste in my mouth like other experiences have done. And so he starts like going down the line again. He just keeps praying for people, and every once in a while he would kind of look up and like make eye contact with me, and then he would move on, and then he'd make eye contact with me, and he would move on. And he then said, all right, somebody's going to receive their prayer language tonight. And I felt like that was directed at me just because I hadn't really said anything the whole time.
Gosh.
And so he said, anybody who wants to receive their prayer language, raise their hand. And I already had my prayer language since I was like 12 or 13, somewhere like that. And he was like, okay, somebody's going to receive their prayer language. People who want to receive their prayer language, raise your hand, and the people around them, like, just pray for them. And there was about 2 or 3 people. One of them was already up in the line, had like 3 people on her. And she was getting prayed for. And then there was a group of 2 girls behind me, and my friend was already praying for them. And there were also 2 other people approaching that group. And I'm like, I don't want to overwhelm anybody because they already have a lot of people on them. So I'm just going to sit here and pray. So I started praying in tongues under my breath. And this girl behind me, I didn't even know she was behind me. She puts her hands on my shoulders, and then she moves one hand up on top of my head and starts praying for me in the spirit. And I'm like, whoa, wasn't expecting that. You just randomly lay your hands on me and start praying for me. And, I just,
Not that that's bad.
not that it's bad, but again, common praying courtesy, you say, hey, can I lay hands on you?
Right. Or, you don't single me out first, where I feel like you're doing standing deliverance on me. Because I didn't pray in the spirit when you shook me.
Yeah. So she prays for me, and I'm just like receiving it in a healthy way that I feel like is okay. And everything ends. I'm like, okay, I need to take a breather. I walk to the bathroom. I come back out. And that was about it. The girl who prayed for me was like, hey, what's your name? I told her my name, and she said, all right, can I get your number? And I'm just like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. So I gave her my number, and that was about it. And then we hung out for about 20 minutes, and then we left.
Wow.
So
this is why next time you go somewhere like that, I'm going to give you the black Alka-Seltzer to put in your mouth when you get baptized. You just let them baptize you there.
Oh my gosh.
And when you come out of the water, it's going to be all the colorful.
You're like, this is the best delivery session.
I know. Like, dang, it's so close to Halloween. We're just going to do this. So my Halloween costume is baptized in demon possession, set free. Like, that's my Halloween costume this year.
You don't know it till you baptize me.
Right.
It's just like, have you seen that little meme that's going around where that guy's baptizing people like violently?
Oh yeah.
They're like,
yes.
it's necessary. He's like, "Wah."
I think Kevin needs that one. Kevin,
I just feel like that has to be a spoof. I mean,
I don't know that it is. Have you ever seen the way that some of the Orthodox churches do the babies? Like they do them like that. They like boom, and then bring them up. It's awful. It's like whiplash.
I've seen babies get thrown and have their head hit. Like,
it's awful.
In the thing.
It's awful the way that they do it sometimes. You're like, is this necessary? Is this even biblical? Like, what do we do? Are we shaking the demons away?
Or they would,
like, what do we do? Like, I don't understand it. I don't understand.
Or how they were christening babies. They would take a water gun and squirt the baby with holy water.
Okay, so I'm going to be a little like, here's the deal. It's young people. Now the guy, I don't know who he was, but the girl, you know what I mean? It's like young people learning to do those things. Not everybody knows what. And here's the thing. We actually are navigating a lot of times we navigate people that have had issues with people like just in their space and touching people, and not everybody has that grid. And so like we're aware of the fact that, I mean, because Jesus didn't even touch everybody. He didn't even like it. Like even, I'm like thinking like the woman that was caught in adultery, there was never even any contact whatsoever with this woman. And so like, so I get that, like young people, but I do think like culturally from place to place, like we have a lot of learned behavior, because I have fallen out in the spirit. My first encounter, I was like mocking it a little. I lived in Tennessee, and I had really cool encounters with the Lord, but I'd gone to this meeting to this guy. I drove by myself, but my aunt and uncle were there, and she was sort of like snickering too. And he had it, if we wanted to get prayed for, and I was like, I actually want to get prayed for. I'm like super hungry. I want to get prayed for by this guy. And so, but I just thought it was silly. And I was like, I'm not going to. And I remember my aunt sort of like talking to me like, yeah, I'm not going to go. She was even more like, no, I don't really give it. She was like raised like a German Catholic. So like none of that kind of stuff would happen. And I remember him coming around the corner and he hadn't even, or down the line, and he was like 3 people away from me. And I was like, and about one person next to me. I don't remember anything. And then all I remember is seeing the ceiling and I hear this cackling next to me. And I look over and my aunt is like looking at me in my face and she's just like laughing. Like, and I was like, oh no, oh, what happened? Because it actually, I had no grid for it. And so I wasn't wanting that. Most people, they are equating that with a move
Yeah.
from God. But when you think about it, where's the only time in scripture that people like fall away when the only one I know is like in the garden. Remember when the soldiers came and he said, I am, and it,
Yes. And then they fell.
yeah.
Gone. Done. I am. Everybody's knocked out in the garden.
Yeah.
Done.
So like I mean, I have experienced that before, and then I've experienced someone like trying to shove me, and I've had someone like go to pray for me and me just like throwing back. I'm back in that weird charismatic stuff, and I have no grid for it.
Yeah.
But I think there is a big learned behavior.
Yes.
Is
And I think it's abusive. That to me it's like, why would you take somebody and what she was explaining. I know you guys, we're on camera with each other because we're in different places in the world. But the way that Mario is explaining it is he has his hands around her head, and he's not quite like, he wasn't quite touching you, right? Or did he grab your head?
No,
Yeah,
it was just like a very like kind of touching my hair, but it was hovering.
But he hovers, and you are spiritually shaking something underdeveloped in a person. It is that, and it's crude, but that's why I say it's like spiritually shaking the baby. It's awful. You are taking whatever root is inside that person sometimes, and you're like trying to jar it into doing what you want. And it's awful. It's really disgusting, and it is learned behavior. And I do want to have grace for people, and I am in a position where I can have grace for people because my child is in a position where she knows better. Like I do know, right? Because she knows better, but somebody else, that is, that's treading on different things, everybody else in that line.
But then you look historically though, and a lot of like the great revivalists were very crude in the way they navigated spiritual things. But I don't think that they navigated people that way. I think they navigated demonic stuff that way. And so like really crude. And so unlike Smith Wigglesworth, he was like the pretty notorious for like drop kicking people and tumors would fall out of their body. But he wasn't, like he would punch people but the tumors but if there was someone standing there, I mean, he's not going to be very super aggressive to someone that is just wanting a touch from the Lord. And I don't know. I mean, I think people are so hungry. It's like that thing that I just read. It's like we are so spiritually malnourished and wanting a move of the Lord, and we feel like this is the only way that we're going to have that we get access to it. And we forget that Jesus actually ascended and he poured out his spirit on all flesh so that we could encounter him in a way where you don't have to stand in lines. Now, I'm not saying that people don't get touched because it is transmitted through people sometimes, but these are people that know Jesus, and it's not like new people all the time. And so like you can have those encounters, and when the presence of the Lord, just over your body just responds. The manifested like presence of the Lord, comes out of the spirit realm into the natural. And so
And I guess for me, like I am from a different school of operation, maybe. I just don't want to blaze through like, and I, maybe this is a difference. I know I'm an evangelist of sort. I mean, we're called to be all things,
Yeah.
right? And I know that my evangelism gift is strong, but it's different because I'm not like a stage evangelist. Now, I am someone who will come and talk to people and drop water on it, and not a I'm not a cultivating person, but I don't think like we can have motivational speakers come through and get people excited about Jesus.
Mhm.
And I think evangelists have they've kind of took a bend that way, as the church knows them. And we champion those people that can get up there and just yell and scream and convict you into believing in something. But I don't think that's the heart of Jesus at all.
Well, and biblically speaking, it doesn't seem like accurate. It's so
Yeah.
funny. It's like people, I think, so I think people give me a hard time sometimes because they feel like I'm not. I love this. I love scripture. I want to know the truth, but the truth is actually Jesus and
Yes.
not the Bible. And
Right. He's a person.
he's a
And
person and he'll set
it's an
you free.
expression.
But there's so many things in the Bible. Like, I'm like, well, that's not what that means right there. But then they take these things and I'm like, but that's not even in the Bible. Like, if
Mhm.
you're like so heavy in these certain, let's say women, let's talk about it's anything in First Corinthians, everybody has their own opinion on it, but then, we won't touch these certain things, but almost like, I don't see that anywhere. And I'm not a person that thinks every experience is going to be matched in the canonization of the Bible.
No.
It is a pretty good guideline, but what we're doing is we're making a doctrine out of it. So we're saying, when you encounter the presence of the Lord, this is what it looks like. That is not accurate.
Yeah.
And so we are putting bricks and mortar and all these things around what God wants to do. And we're pushing and becoming sensual that we never get past our soulish part of us to really encounter the presence of the Lord, because we are shallow and we're not teaching and telling people. I mean, there were seasons when the Lord was like, hey, I'm going to need you to stand in my presence. And I was like, so I don't like that, because I just want to like melt into the presence of the Lord. It's like this beautiful, like, I just want to tuck into my little shell and go into my spirit, man. You know what I mean? And the Lord's like, I need you to stand. And I was like, that's really hard for me. And he's like, and that is why I need you to stand. And so I need you to encounter me outside of your natural soulish ways that you direct yourselves towards me. It's like the whole, Jesus, why do you always show up in a robe? He's like, because that's how
This is you see me.
This is how you
this is how you want to see me.
Yeah.
Well, he started taking me years ago through this thing where whatever was going on around me, he had me do the opposite.
Yeah.
But he had me to do it to shift atmospheres and to learn how to hear him in certain settings. And it started at Bonnie Bray. People were like in celebration mode, and he had me just get down on my face and stay there and say nothing. And then it seemed like everywhere we went for years after that, I was doing the opposite. He would tell me to do the opposite. He would say, hey, I need you to get up and get loud. And I'm like, but Lord, these people are like sticks in mud. I cannot get up and just start waving my flags or dancing around. Like, who wants to see the chubby girl dance before the Lord, right? But here we go. I'm gonna do it. And he had me do that and had me shift the atmosphere, and it shifted things in me where I had to learn to listen for his voice and all of it and be obedient to that voice. And so, Mari, there may come a day where the Lord says, you're not going to feel me when he touches you, but I want you to lay down anyway. And when you do, I will meet you there.
Okay.
There may come a day for that, but you listen for him to tell you that.
Well, we're led by the
Yeah.
voice.
Not for someone to come.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes, you follow his voice.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
like, remember that one time when the Zion Dance Project was at the deal, and I mean they were having this hoopla celebration, and the Lord was like, "Hey, I need you to go lay down like you're dead," and I was like, "What?"
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, I remember
I
that.
had such an amazing encounter with the Lord that day. So I did not know what I was about to walk into. He was like, "So this part of your life is over and dead."
Yeah. She opened her eyes and she's like, she took a deep breath. It was so funny. I'm like standing over her because I was afraid people were going to fall on her because she's dressed in all black, laying on the ground like this dead woman. And I'm like, what is the Lord has really drugged me through some weird things with Megan. I've held her hair.
Oh,
No, I pushed on her when she gave birth to a baby in the spirit.
I had another hair dream, and it was really weird because I went into the mirror and I started panicking because it looked like I thought I was losing hair, and then I was like, because it looked like I'd gone bald, and the Lord said, "No, take another look," and I looked and I was growing new hair. Yeah. So I was like, "God, what's up with the hair?"
It's so funny. He's changing your covering.
I know.
Good.
But I panicked for a second. I was like, "I'm going bald." He's like, "You might want to take another look at that."
Yeah.
I was like,
So
"Oh."
I have a question. What do you think, Mari? Do you think that you should stay far away? Do you feel like the Lord is leading you to maybe be part of that, to speak into it? Like, where do you think? Do you need to pray on that more? Like, what do you think he would have you do? Because as a young person, you're trying to cultivate community. We're new here in town.
Yeah.
And you want other believers.
I think it's something that I need to pray into more, but for me, it's almost kind of like I want community, but at the same time, I don't want to be sucked back into almost like a cult in a way. I don't want to be sucked into something where it's more like I'm following the beat of somebody else's drum because it looks right to them. Because for me, if it's not the Lord, then it's not that it's like not worth my time, but it's not worth like the effort of worshiping that
person, right?
Yeah, like
because
that
it's a person, not really worshiping the Lord.
I know that for what our experience is, whether it's working behind the stage, behind everything else, we have seen things where it's like they worship the hype and they worship the message more than the one who gave the message.
Right.
Or they worship
the God who gave it.
Yeah, the God who gave the message.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, well,
it's idol worship.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we were the GPS with Todd White, when he said, "Stop coming to conferences to get filled up and to get your word. If you want a word, get in your prayer closet."
Yes.
So
and we're at a prophetic conference, and Todd White's like, "Mark, now here's the back scene of that." It was so good because Mari was helping me with an event that time, and she was helping to, kind of process people in and out of the green room, because there was a certain prayer area for people who were coming to lead, to speak during this event. And Todd came in and he started to pray, and they had said, "Please don't let anybody go in here, not even the people hosting the event, not the pastor of the church that they had rented the building from.
Like nobody
comes in here." And Todd proceeded to sing and pray in the spirit for like 2.5 hours. And when he came out of that, he went out front and he said, guys, I'm grieved because we're here, and I know you're here at this prophetic conference
that you've paid for.
that you've,
Was
you
that
know,
the
you,
last one he was at?
yeah, yeah. No, I don't think it was actually. So that was good. I mean,
Oh
that
yeah.
was good. You
Mm.
know,
Depending on you.
yeah, good and bad. But so he says, I'm grieved because we've you know, it was around an election time. We voted for this thing and that thing and whatever. But you're here at this conference, this prophetic conference, because you want a word from the Lord. And he said, if you want a word from the Lord, his word is this: come get one, basically. Like get into, you know, get into your prayer closet, come and pray, and come get one.
Yeah.
And we ignore those kind of unctioning. We'd rather hear it from someone else.
Yeah.
You know, like get a
But
word from
that's-
someone else rather than,
Yeah, I say that, and it ties into the experience I had, because it's like the whole, if it's not God, I don't want it.
yeah.
And if somebody's trying to push me onto the floor, I don't want it, because that's not God.
Yeah. God will put me on the floor himself. Thank you.
Yes, God will lay me out.
Yeah, yeah. God will put me wherever he wants me on this floor. I think my biggest thing is I don't want to bash anybody in telling this story or talking about it. My thoughts are this: I question why we feel the need to do those things.
Yeah.
Why are we not following the voice of the Lord in order to watch those things come to fruition?
Yeah.
Like those things should be the fruit of an actual encounter or an actual situation,
Yeah.
not just like what we go there to do. So it, you know, if there were people, he said, let's do an altar call, and there were people that didn't really want to get up and go do it. Okay, so maybe the Lord said, you know what, just tell everybody to come down here. Well, okay, all right, everybody come down here. So now it's like a mandatory, we're going to make you do this thing. I'm going to have you do this. And then there's an expectation on you to perform.
Yeah.
Because that person has gotten themselves all churned up and
Yeah.
they're ready to release onto somebody else. But that's them and their humanity, not necessarily the Lord leading that thing.
And
you know,
I acknowledge like wanting to have pure intentions, but there's a difference between having pure intentions and the right heart posture executed the right way.
Yeah, I agree. And you can think that your intentions are like in your mind, it's pure intentions,
but
right?
it might not be expressed,
but your
in the
heart
right way.
is grieving something, or your heart is wanting something, or your person is wanting something, but you know, you're not actually hearing from the Lord. You just want to, like, I could will everyone in, you know, like I want everyone to be in heaven. I you know, my will is that everyone goes to heaven. And you know, I mean, that's God's will too, but the timing might be off. So that's the thing.
I have a little bit of a like when I came into the kingdom, I didn't have a grid for this. A lot of people, how they've come into it is, I mean, I think we've probably said it a million times before. It's like the law first mentioned. However, you experience him is how you're going to want to like over like encounter him. And if you don't have somebody to, you know, help you navigate that, and so it's almost like I encountered Jesus in such a crazy way, but there was no like this happened and then this happened. It was just super organic. Someone sent me home, and then I had to like, and then I started just having all these like really cool, it was almost like, I think I'll knock on the door, you know, Jesus. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Like,
Are you there?
You know how to cook this meal? I mean, like seriously, I have no like, okay. And the Holy Spirit is so innocent. And so, but then I migrate, you know, things start happening and people are like, okay, you have a gift. Not really. It's not that I have a gift. It's like, I just wanted to spend time with Jesus, and that is equated into that. Like, And they're like,
Yeah.
this is what you need to do. So, and this is how you're going to do that. And I didn't have a grid for that. I mean, even when I was singing, the people that I did stuff with, like they were way spontaneous, led by the Spirit and led by the wind. And so, but like now it is stripping back that kind of stuff and letting people, because people are still wanting that. They're like, we travel, like we see these people come to things that we do. They're wanting, you know, stuff from us. And to be like, so I'm not going to give this to you this way. I'm going to like probably do the opposite of that, because you need everything stripped back so you can like know that you have access to the presence of the Lord and
Yourself,
not
with me. Like I want to join you in that. That would be beautiful, but I can't have you coming to like suckle that off of me. That can't be the thing. I want to release you to do something, but I cannot be the source of it. And it happens all the time.
And so when we come together, it is not for those things. Like we're like, okay, so let's go back to scripture. The gathering of the saints is for it's for the equipping of the saints for the work of ministry. You know? It is to learn something and be like, okay, and back in the day, like, okay, we're not alone. So if I die, I'm not going to die alone. You know, if anything it's taken from me, I'm not alone. And how do I navigate these things? But we come as like a smorgasbord to Golden Corral. You know, ice cream deal going, you know,
chugging the syrup.
And so I understand people need, you know, but the only reason why they need that is because they don't have the revelation of what they have access to, like air that they're breathing. And so we get to come in instead of going like, oh my gosh, I need their one spiritual person that he gets to just sit there and pray all the time and do that. You know, that guy doesn't even get to do that because everybody's calling him all the time. And, you know, he's on phone call. Like I mean, it even deteriorates that kind of thing. But it's like, even when we do come together, it'd be like, I have this amazing encounter, like, and they're like, I have this amazing encounter. And then we're all going to come together and we're just so electrified. Or I had this, like, there's so many things, but it's not to pull on the one person, because you don't even see that scripturally. They came in, they said the things that they laid the foundation, and then they were like, go do life completely in the spirit of the Lord. Go do your business in the spirit of the Lord. Go do, you know, now our deal is like, we're going to, my goal is to be so spiritual so I don't have to work anymore, and my work is going to be ministering to other people. But that is actually not what the work of ministry is in my life. When I wake up till I go to bed, when I raise my kids, when I go, you know, to work, when I do all these things, like, it is the kingdom. It is the kingdom. It is the kingdom. It is the kingdom. And so like this is where this learned behavior comes from. And it is is out of bad motive. And then now we don't have fruit. We have all these people that are wanting to go into ministry, and they're like, you are in ministry.
They're so fat they can't leave the building. On what's been fed in the building. From a stage. And that's I mean, what you're saying is exactly it, because what we should be doing is coming back together to rejoice in what the Lord has been doing in our lives, and to just like, you know, like charge each other electrically and then go back out. But instead we put one person. It's like friction of, here's my story, here's your story. That we start building this energy together, and we go back out and do the thing. But instead we're going out in the world, and we're working our jobs, or we're doing whatever, and we're striving so hard to do life and come back together. And our pastors are telling us, you guys can't make it from Sunday to Sunday. You better be here on Wednesday so you can come here and get filled up. I can't tell you how many times have we heard that?
Every church.
Every single time. You have to be here on, if you really want more of the Lord, come on Wednesday nights.
I mean,
know
I
that's
do
the thing.
believe that there are people that have the ability to teach the scriptures and have words, but it's not like all the time. Okay, so like, let's say within my community, okay, within our communities, like we know who is
gifted more at what
in certain things, Now, if you're not cultivating that, I can see the potential in that, but I was like, someone's gonna have to make up the slack.
Leader, just so you know.
Yeah. Go.
I'm just
are actually. I mean, I'm still under the thing of like, in our weaknesses, he's strong. Like there's my strength isn't what is like
he gets to come forward and I get out of the way. That's absolutely the thing.
Yeah. Now, do I think the fivefold ministry, like there's things that we can navigate in a little bit stronger than one another? Yeah, and that's why we lean and lend, and like it's a beautiful like dynamic. So I
mean, bless them. I just I just think we need to reconfigure what it is we see the purpose of the church building for.
Yeah.
If we're going to actually have a building, it should be used for various things, like if we need a wedding or I don't know, like we should be doing things very differently, and being filled up and coming in more out of our overflow, right? Like we should be building all week long and coming in out of our overflow, worshiping the Lord together out of our overflow, connecting and giving to each other, because people are going to have seasons and they're going to have bad days and they're going to have a bad week and whatever. And that's okay. Like come together to be charged and to be uplifted and really loved on.
Yeah.
Not because we need to come in and sit down at the buffet and pull our chair right up to the, like to the chocolate fountain. To the chocolate fountain. That's exactly where my brain went. That I was like chocolate and meat. I don't know how that is so gross. To the chocolate fountain and the rotisserie.
In community, we have a responsibility, but it's like the thing, if all we're doing is like having that narcissistic, I'm going to grow to be the best person I can be so that I can self-help, and get to where I'm going. Like you actually in community have to die to some of the things that you feel like are important to you. It's like marriage. Yes. It's like when you have children, like everything else, like I don't understand like how we've gotten so far away from that. Of like, could I give up of my life? Could I lay down my life for something that's hard and a community? And so there's a responsibility, and people don't even think about those things anymore. Like I am, it's like in my family, like I am here to give, not to get. But I know that if ever there's a time when I'm like, there's stuff going on, that they're going to do the same thing. Like we've cultivated this, but it's not going to be a constant all the time thing. Like I am going to go to the source and I get to come and pour my vessel into the bigger like part of the deal. And it's super exciting and it's messy and it gets everywhere. And we all come together for that kind of thing. And so like it's turning everything upside down. And I'll be honest, like I'm over here for a month in Europe, and there's I was doing dishes at my son and daughter-in-law's, and there's this like tune that came in my head and I started singing, like the wind was blowing through and I'm in this tiny little kitchen, like they're there. Like my favorite thing to do is like do your thing. I want to cook you food, I want to wash the dishes, I want to serve you and love you and be so lavish. Like I know how it is to be a grown-up and be a newly grown-up person. And so like this is like my gift to you. And so I'm in there and I'm singing, and it was such an amazing song to the Lord. And I was like, it's going to go up into the air and leave. And there was such satisfaction. And I just started crying as I'm rinsing or drying off the dishes of like, I have a life that I'm giving to people and to the Lord, and no one else will ever hear it, but it is amazing. And
that's
it's
for
such,
Lord to look
I'm
on.
like, this might have been the best song I've ever sang in my life. And right now I couldn't even tell you what it was.
Yeah.
It like the whole kitchen just like filled with the presence of the Lord. And it was like he was so heavy, like a blanket on me. And the Lord's like, hey, you.
Yeah.
And
And why would we give up those encounters to go into somewhere and have someone tell us what to feel?
yeah. Or like, man, what a waste of the song that you sang. I was like, nothing's ever wasted on Jesus. Nothing's ever wasted. Like we have to start talking about these things instead of talking about in services falling out in the spirit, because we're going to be in our kitchen more than we're going to be in a building.
Yeah.
And so my kitchen experience, I'm going to bring that into a gathering, and I'm going to give people like, hey, if that can happen with her, then, you know, like I can access that too. If there's nothing special, like in the mundane things, those are the places, and our weak spots that we don't love, we can access the Lord. And so like that, but now we have experiences like yours, Mari. And so where people are like, I don't care, push me down, spit on me,
Yeah.
shit me. I just want, it's coming. They're so desperate for something. So what song came through my head while you were talking was, I mean, I have no idea where Maverick City is now. I was like, are they even anymore?
Are they even a thing? Are they a thing? I don't know.
There used to be a song. It's actually the first song I ever heard of theirs, and it was called "The Real Thing." And it's so good. One of the verses was, well, the whole tagline is, "I'm done pretending, I want the real thing." And it says, "You've been here all this time. Tell me, where have I been looking? Because you weren't hard to find. Mercy opened my eyes. Now I'm losing my religion to be loved like a child. I promise. So I won't let go. I see you right where you are." I think it's like a back and forth I'm like, I need to go listen to that. But it's not like that's pretending, but what's happened is now we have such a value and we've created idolatry, right, Mari? And the thing that is that it should not, we created a golden calf out of that. And we've left where the Lord really is like, this is so valuable. Like your everyday life is where you need me the most. And you feel like you have to travel out. And it's like trying to carry sand in a windstorm back to important places. You get there home and you're like, oh crap. So that's why like you said with what's the pastors, they're like, you can't make it. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't make it from Sunday to Sunday.
Make it. They're telling the truth.
Yeah.
But you don't need to be there.
It's job security.
It is job security. Yeah. It is the easiest thing to twist on the planet. Besides, look in my eyes and you'll see Jesus.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I love it. Like my imagination went crazy. I was like, you just so focus in and you go into like the cosmos and there's Jesus in his white robe, like in the cosmos, and he gets bigger. As you were talking, I was like, Megan, back off your imagination right now.
Yeah. Because I mean, yes, we're supposed to pull on the Lord, but you can't put him on a timer, because he's not in our timing, we're in his timing.
Yeah.
So, it's just gross to even say like, oh, in 3 seconds this is gonna happen. Like, yes,
did the Lord tell you that? Or
it's just kind of gross to me to even do that, to try to say I have the authority to tell Jesus when he's going to show up and show himself to you. because that's kind of what that was.
Oh, he
He's already
surprises
there.
me all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's already there, but when will he choose to show up
Yeah.
and like make himself known is
Yeah.
different,
Oh,
because
for
he's
sure.
he's already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I cannot wait to see. I have I'm gonna put James on the spot a little bit here, but I can't wait to see the graphic he comes up with for this, because I told him kind of what I wanted. And we'll see if he can pull it off. We'll see if he can pull it off.
Oh my
His
gosh.
graphics have been on point.
I know. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, he's
So
so good.
well,
Well,
Mari, thank you for sharing.
yeah, thanks for being brave. And
My pleasure, former Chick-fil-A employee.
please don't tempt me with that Chick-fil-A stuff, since I have no access to it.
She has zero access to Chick-fil-A sauce right now. Thanks.
I'll mail you some. I'll buy you a bottle. I'll mail it to you.
Don't, I will abuse it.
She'll put on all that healthy European food.
Oh, dude.
It'll no longer be healthy.
Yeah, it is. I ate an apple today, and it might have been one of the best apples I've ever eaten. So
Keep the doctor away.
yeah, it does something.
Showing up.
So,
Show me
the bread here and like all the goat cheese you could ever imagine. I'm like, I know.
Okay, and this is when I hang up on Megan. No, I'm just kidding. But thank you, Mari, for sharing your story, and thank you for being the you in the world.
Yeah.
Just for being you.
Well, you're very welcome. I don't I actually wrote that was what my first English paper was on, was about being true to myself and not fitting a cookie cutter version of myself. So you're welcome.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Good job, Abby, on your parenting.
Yep. Good job, Abby, on your parenting.
Patting myself if you can't hear me.
Yes. That's what we want. We want our kids to go out into the world and make differences where they go. I mean, they're going to do it anyways. Like, my kids don't even have a choice. They're just influential.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and it's because of
You-
it's what's cultivated inside. And I was looking at my grandkids playing in the sand pit today, and I was like, they're never not gonna know. It's just gonna be like this transition, and it's their life, So we don't have to have these huge markers. Like, we want them to grow up like they've always been in the kingdom, and they always will, and they carry that with them. And so it doesn't have to be this hyped up thing. It has to be daily, making differences. People see that inside. They see Jesus in our eyes.
Yes. Well, I had somebody actually call me this week and say, so I want more from the Lord, and I see your family and they're thriving and they're healthy and they're this and they're that. And could you mentor me? And I'm like, can I get out of bed today? But yeah, I mean, it's honoring. And I said, well, I can give you some homework. Let's work on some things, and then you live and see. And the first thing I do is teach them how to hear from the Lord. And that's after that, my job's cake. I don't really have to mentor anybody if that's the case. Like, once I get you hearing from him, you don't need to hear from me anymore. Right? So Mari, you can move out anytime. I'm just kidding.
I dazed off, and all I heard was, Mari, you can move out at any time. And I was like, wait, what?
You tell me you were hearing from the Lord. No.
Well, thanks, Mari, for making the shift.
Yes. Thank you for being the next generation of the shift, because you guys are, that's a thing. You're like the next 4 years after, like Megan and I, let's say we were the high schoolers that, middle school, high school, that we had the internet come alive when we were there. And then you're like the next generation that came in when you had the internet in school, period. Like, like we're the Oregon Trail generation, and you're like, oh, we actually had internet access. Like, we're floppy disk and you're like USB or something. So that's you coming into this shift in culture and in the walk. And be rad to see it happening.
Yeah, well, during a new generation of the internet with AI, I would rather go old school. I wish I could be in the 90s.
Yeah.
I really feel like there is a shift happening in that kind of thing. So I saw a sweater, like an ugly sweater, and it had the Oregon deal, and it says, "Hey, hop on with me. We're gonna go die of dysentery." I was like, I need to get that.
Yes. Why y'all gotta be
Ships,
dysentery?
if you hang out with me, you're gonna get the ships really bad.
Hang out with me and you break out the shifts. We need to make some shirts. Why y'all gotta be dysentery?
Wow.
Okay, guys. Well, we'll see y'all next week.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Thanks for joining us here at The Shift. If this podcast encouraged you or you have questions, please connect with us at theshiftpodcast.info. Make the shift.